Today we're transported away to a faraway land, to a land where monsters rule, and to a place that has the worst villain names. Today it's Monster Rancher Battle Card Game. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Dude, Where's My Cards, where we primarily evaluate strategy card games from both a designer's view and a regular gamer's view. As always, my name is Brendan, and I'm here with my buddy Jordan. And in today's episode, we're talking about the Monster Rancher Battle Card Game, let's say it's a trading card game, but it's a digital version by Techmo.
We're looking at the digital one mostly. It's the easier one for us to get a hold of. So originally released in December 24th, 1999 in the American market. It's pretty straightforward. The concept of the game is you pick 3 monsters, which you battle against your opponent's 3 monsters. Flip a coin, determine who starts. Really just consists of 3 main phases to the game. We have a draw phase, a general phase where players activate their abilities or attacks, and then a final phase where it goes into a discard phase where you discard cards for guts, which is the resource system for this game. Mm-hmm. It's pretty straightforward. You win when you've killed all 3 of your opponent's monsters, reducing their HP to 0, or you can't draw. When you run out of that draw power, you also would lose. So that's the main concept of the game. It's not really too difficult or too hard to explain once you've actually been explained what goes on. Mm-hmm. So just generalization. What else? You got anything there for the rest of that, B?
No, I think that's a pretty good introduction. The game is pretty simple once you actually learn the rules. I know you had some difficulties with the Game Boy version.
Yeah, the Game Boy Color. So there's 2 versions of the game. The original Monster Rancher Battle Card Game Episode 1, which is for the Game Boy Color, which is the one that originally released. And then the one for PlayStation, which is Episode 2, which we have right here. And then we have the game rolling as we're kind of playing through it as well, just so we can give some visuals. So we're going to kind of try to take this as from a design and a gamer's aspect. Brennan, for this case, is going to be looking at the design aspect because he's more familiar with the game. Me being first time playing it this week, I'm going to look at it from a new gamer's perspective.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so from the designer's eye, I wanted to talk about a few key points here. So my first was that the game has a solid foundation of gameplay, I found. That it kind of introduces your first concept of character-centric decks. Mm. Where you think of games now, you get lots of these games where you pick a character, you build a deck with the card specific of that character, and it kind of melds together. Yeah. Where kind of before this, it was the Magic, the Pokemon, you get 60 almost individual cards and try to make them work together. In a sense, this is almost like a MOBA to some degree, a MOBA team fighter. Like we've had a design in progress that kind of emulates something similar where you have characters, the characters have certain cards they can do. There's a resource system that allows you to play cards.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like you said, the MOBA style where it's a team of 3 monsters versus another team of 3 monsters.
And it's got a strong foundation, as I was saying, and the deck building of the game is great once you get into it. But my biggest problem with the game is the gut system hurts the game bad. Like just having the fact that the guts exist and that you have to discard cards from your hand to be able to play cards pretty much in the future.
Yeah.
So you're left with this situation where half your deck, maybe more than half your deck, are not going to be relevant cards.
They're just discards for guts.
And that goes even further where I want to talk about the existence of dodge mechanic in the game. It feels good to dodge. It feels awful to be dodged.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into cards that cost 6, 7, 8 guts. Because how many turns does it take to get to that point?
Yeah, and mind you, like you said, just to put in, every card discarded only generates 1 gut.
Yeah.
So the bigger cards still only give you 1.
So to get to that point where it's 6, 7, 8 guts.
It's a few turns.
If you were to deal 7 to 10 damage with that card, it might even be a little bit higher for the higher end cards. I'm just kind of guesstimating here. That's going to kill most things in the game.
Yeah.
But a 1 gut dodge card dodges that.
And you do nothing.
There you go. You do absolutely nothing unless your card ability is, if this is dodge, deal half damage, which a couple cards do have, but that's a minor thing. It's just absolutely killer to me that I wasted 3 turns of discarding cards to try and make a play, and with a very, very low resource investment, you got out scot-free.
Yep, okay.
So now you've been building up slower. Maybe you don't have the big boom guys like I do, and maybe that's the part of the game that the characters who have lower HP and higher dodge chances are actually really good against the guys that require tons of investment. But to me, that's just a design flaw almost, where you can do something with so little resource and gain so much value out of it. Like, it's not just the person missing, it's all the resource that goes with it. If you dodged and you used that much cards and you got half your guts back or something, at least it's not a total waste. It's just, to me, is a huge oversight.
Okay. From a player's perspective, when I played this game, we'll get a little bit into it when we go into impression, but, looking at the game, on the Game Boy Color version especially, I had incredible difficulty understanding what was going on. How the game even played fundamentally. There was no instructions in the game. I believe you mentioned that it might have been in the rulebook that they gave you originally.
In the Game Boy rulebook, yes, It actually does lay out how to play the rules in almost like a board game sense. And that was fairly normal back then.
Yeah, well, when you're getting a ROM of this game and you're playing it on an emulator off of your phone or something, it's suddenly impossible to understand what's going on without looking up further rules. Mm-hmm. The rules are very simple once you get them. It was just the introduction to them were not there in the Game Boy Color. Playing on the PlayStation, however, the introduction to the game is way better. It's much more like, here's what you do for this to happen, for the most part. There's some minor things that they miss out, but that's kind of the joy of learning the game a little bit. It's a 1990s game, early 2000s, so like the art and the styling of cards are outdated. They don't really feel outdated, great.
If you look at them, considering what they were for the time, they really grabbed onto the full art idea.
The full art, yeah.
And you're able to do that when you're able to digitally present information. Like if we switch to the screen here, you can see that cards' abilities are on the left side of the card. And you can scroll through them using the R1 function, and it kind of tells you what you can and can't do. So when you can eliminate text from cards, why not go full bore on showing off your art? Yeah. And it's also functional to some degree. Like, you know how much it costs because of the yellow number under the top left. You know how much damage it does because of the bottom left.
That one's resource and that one's damage. So
is it?
Yeah.
Switch cards.
This is your damage. Switch cards. So the yellow indicator is... So again, it's not ultimately very clear. So this is where... Switch cards again.
Yeah, so I guess that is 1K. Yeah, so damage is up higher. So yeah, that is a big thing. That, yes, the information's present, but like, how many times have I played this game and I look at it and I still go,
Yeah.
Like, why is your power icon or your damage icon so small?
And such a big emphasis on the actual ability there. But like I said, so these cards... When I look at them, they're outdated and they don't really... Like, if I was to try to convert this into a real card game, which they do have across the sea in Japan, they have the physical version of this exact game. We can't get it in North America, or you can't get it in English.
Well, there is a Monster Rancher collectible
It's a CCG, game, but they actually have...
It's slightly different.
This exact battle card game is a real card game there. But... So when I look at the cards, like, they're outdated for me because, yes, it's 1990, almost 2000, but Magic the Gathering came out in 1993. So, like, when I look at all the info and how well it's designed there, yes, this is an old game. Yes, it has old designs, so you got to give it some merit, but it's hard to understand. Even with, like, as clear it is on the PlayStation, it's even worse on the Game Boy Color.
Oh, yeah, the Game Boy Color would give you nothing unless you learn what all the cards are in advance, and then you can play the game, and... Then you're like, oh, thank God I don't have to read anything. I know what it does. But
as a gamer take, that was kind of my generalization. The PlayStation was a much better feel to everything, the animations. It is slow. It is very slow. And we'll get into that a little bit when we go into impressions, but that's my first initial look at it as the gamer, is that the game takes too long. The animations are too long. Like, here, let's see if I can go through an animation here. We'll use this card. Please select the monster. So we're going to attack. So it's going to go through the animations as the attack. I swing. Oh, I got the rumble in.
And break the TV.
And break the TV. Great.
Oh,
but
all good. We're back.
Yeah, we're back. It took that long just to initiate the one card. Yeah. And that's one card of the next 60 I have to play to complete this battle. It's a very long battle.
In the same sense, though, you're judging... or you're evaluating the game based on this experience. If you had a physical copy of this game, the animations removed, is this game that much faster? Possibly.
Well, yes, definitely.
And that's one of the things I want to talk about from the designer's perspective as well. There's not really any mana ramp in this game. So
yeah.
there's no way to really abuse later game cards or big hitting cards by abusing ramp to get to them quicker.
Yeah, you have to get them traditionally.
And in a sense, that's better for the game's health balance-wise because you kind of know how things are going to function.
Yep.
You're not going to get things get skewed way out of control.
Yep.
But at the same time, yes, it makes for a slow game because, I have a big hitter, I got to discard all 5 cards in my hand on my first turn, and then the next turn I go, I swing for the fences. And if I get the kill, boom, there's a kill. Like,
as long as they don't have a dodge,
yeah.
which we got it. So that's a general theme. So we'll kind of go into our rubric now, jumping into our impression category. That top marker, their theme. From my perspective, I gave it a 3. The reason it's a 3 for me is because it's still Monster Rancher. Like, I watched this anime when I was a kid. I've watched this one probably more than I watched Pokemon. Not more than I watched Digimon, but... So I enjoyed some of the creatures and some of the artwork, full art style. So I gave it a 3 because I like the theme even though it's outdated.
That's a ripoff. I give that thing a 5. Monster Rancher is awesome.
You went swing for... No, see, I only...
Monster Rancher to me is the branch below Pokemon and Digimon, but also a branch sideways closer to traditional mythology.
Oh, okay. You want like, I wasn't deep into it, so like I've only seen it.
But I mean, like
times.
it's realistic creatures to some degree. Like it's not like Omnimon and Digimon where you get this giant thing with this sword, or Charizard. Like he's I guess that's a bad example. He's a dragon, but
no.
But you get like a dinosaur. You get a giant golem. You get Suezo's just a giant eyeball thing, and Mochi's just a weird thing based on a food. But, it's just, to me, I always enjoyed the world. I mean, I gotta say this first, because I kind of gave the whole intro of one of the worst worlds, or one of the worst bad guy names in an entire world. And do you know what the name of the bad guy from this show was?
I don't even remember. I don't even remember anything other than them looking for the slates, really.
Because they want to revive Phoenix.
Okay, yeah.
Who is going to defeat...
No.
What sound does a cow make?
Moo?
Moo. The guy's name is Moo.
Oh my gosh.
And he's menacing as hell. But
Moo.
Every time he popped up, his name is Moo. I believe it's M-U. But
okay.
it's like moo. Like every time someone said it in the show, it's just like cows, man. It's just straight cows. And it's just, I don't know what to do with that name.
Moo.
Yeah. So regardless, it's still a 5 for me.
Okay.
I like the Monster Rancher world.
I guess I haven't. I should have maybe watched the anime a bit to refresh it, but from what I can recall, I was like, yeah, they bring some nostalgia back to me. But
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I'll give these things 5.
Also, I never played the games like you had either, so you had a little bit of...
Yeah, I've beaten both of them.
Yeah. So going into rules, originally I was going to throw it a real low ball when I played the Game Boy Color. Playing the PlayStation kind of recovered it back, so I'm going to fit it right in the middle, and I gave it a 3. Mostly because it was so poorly explained in the Game Boy Advance, but once it is explained, it's super easy, so...
You got shaded pretty hard.
Yeah, I was bitter, but then I saw that it's super easy to play, so I kind of had to smack it into the middle at 3 for me.
Yeah, I went straight to a 5 on this one, just because I had never had a poor learning experience with it. If young Brendan on a Game Boy could learn how to do it from reading the rule book,
yeah,
that's pretty good. Turning on the PlayStation again after how many years to try it out, learned it again right away because it teaches you how to do it.
Yeah,
super easy game. Me, this is a 5. I mean, I wish I would have had a rule book.
Yeah.
I mean, technically I could go into the PlayStation rulebook and read through that and evaluate it that way. But because this is a digital card game, you have to go based on what the digital option presents. And nowadays and age, you expect some form of intro to the game and explanation of how to play the most basic forms.
There was an intro in the Game Boy Color. There was 3 little people sitting outside of the first house you got, and they went, "Use guts to play cards." And that was one of the major...
Guts?
What is guts?
Yeah.
And it's not even... And it's... When you use abilities in Game Boy Color, it's called e-guts. And you're like...
Oh, yeah.
What is e-guts?
I remember
it's
that.
Eat guts. Eat cards to generate guts. But they call it eat guts. So it's e-guts.
Fast... Or they didn't have enough character spaces to do it consistently. So they just called it
e-guts. And
Yeah.
And the attacks are weird. So it was a lot of terms that is like, great, I know that I need to know that term. I have no idea what it is. Mm-hmm. But in the PlayStation, like I said, it's fixed. So balance it out to a 3.
Okay, next, design and art.
I gave it a 2. I think that the design of the cards are pretty poor, considering, like I said, and I'm going off the Game Boy Color exclusively because I did this rubric based on the Game Boy Color.
Okay. Yeah.
The PlayStation does improve it, but I'm solely looking at it from the Game Boy Color originally. I've changed some things knowing that the rules were easier, but like I said, it's a 2. The cards are so hard, you have to go within menus and menus to look at things, and I'm not saying that the abilities are that complicated once you start playing. It's from the initial, if I wanted to get hooked on this game, it's a lot of overwhelming stuff at the start. So
yeah.
Design and art was not really there for me. The only thing I really liked from the art style was, like I said, the full style of art and like the images of the actual characters doing stuff was very cool. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of hurdles that I had to get over to get there.
Yeah, and for me, I have it just a little bit higher. I decided to go with 3.
Okay.
Just because I'm going to go with the functional aspect of the cards. They work. They do what they need to do. I give a little bit of slack because it's an older game. But like the characters are
That's
still
pretty
there. Like on the
ruthless,
PlayStation version, the characters are there.
Yeah.
I look at them, I see them, whatever. Like it's not like the art is poor.
No, and
Like,
the Game Boy
at a
Color
3
wasn't even that bad.
At a 3, I just say, yeah, it's there. Like it's not good, it's not bad. I can play the game with it.
Yeah, when I look at the design specifically, the art's what pushes us. When I look at the design, the cards just don't seem exciting to me. They just feel like they were slapped in there so that you could say it's a digital card game.
Mm-hmm.
Like not like there's a lot of digital
I'd
card
like to
games
see
we've
what
reviewed.
this stuff looked like in a physical form.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of good art pieces in this game, but they get showed off because they get the advantage of the full art. Like what happens if they go Magic style and they have a medium-sized window?
Do you
and to
lose
put
a
their
bunch
art?
of that stuff? Yeah.
Then maybe that makes it better, makes it worse, not
Yeah.
sure. But regardless, that's...
But because we don't have one in the North American, and we'll eventually look at the CCG that we do have here, but that's a completely different game.
Yep.
So, complexity, I have it at a 4. Because actually once you know the cards, or if you can easily read the cards like on the screen and the
Yeah.
rules and everything, it's very straightforward. So I put it at a 4 because I think it's appropriate, with the exception of like some of the stuff seems to be just like there. It's not really useful, like the cards.
What?
Like the cards, like most of the cards, the resource system, the complexity to it just seems like they could have done a better version of it than what they had.
I would argue that's not complexity, though.
Well,
Like it's a super simple system. You discard one, you gain a resource.
one, you gain one, you discard one. I don't know. I guess
It just doesn't feel good.
yeah, maybe that's what it comes down
I
to.
gave the
from-
game a complexity of 5 because it's just you learn the rules. It's like, oh, what do I do? Discard my cards next turn, play my cards next turn, discard my cards next turn, play my cards, and you just cycle that through.
And I think I gave it low because I'm thinking I would have
I think
expected
it's low, you
more.
get a 4. It's
I was
okay.
expecting more to give it a 5. Like I'm not saying that it's not complex. Like it's easy, it is, but I just expected something a little bit more. Like I'm almost saying it should have
almost
been
like a little bit more complexity
Yeah.
to match
what I was
you were
expecting. So that's
Okay.
why it's not a 5. It
Yeah,
needed
that makes
more.
sense.
So that's complexity. So that does the impression. So game category, which we come into our first big score, is gameplay. Again, solely Game Boy Color opinion here. I give it a 6.
Okay.
I don't really think it changes that much for the PlayStation for me, other than like it's nicer to look at. But the gameplay itself is boring at times.
Oh yeah.
So
I give it a 7 because the same thing. Like when I turned it on, I played 4 or 5 games. I had fun doing it. It's great. But then when you realize, especially in the game form, where you're playing in digital content versus computers, you start to learn how to manipulate them. And then you also realize how much grinding you're going to have to do to get anywhere in the game, where you play someone and you're like, oh, that's a sweet monster. I want to try using that guy's cards. And, you know, you go online, you Google it, and you're like, oh, so I got to play like another 300 matches before I can even get to a point where I play in a tournament.
yeah,
And I might not even get him unless I win the tournament.
yeah.
So that to me, like, gameplay, good. Digital version, eh.
Jumping into the next one, depth there. I've got it at a 3. The reason it's a 3 is because there's 99 different monsters. There's only 99 different variations, which if you break it down per 3 is great. But when you look at it in the card game version, when I'm thinking about like when this is no longer digital, there's not like those options run out, and there's probably only a few true meta cards that you really want to ever use.
That's insane to me. I give it a 5 for depth.
Really?
Because no meta developed out of these games. If you go look online, there is
Okay.
no one matchup or 3 combination of creatures that people will say is the best. Everyone has had their own success, but a lot of that is because it's online, it's versus computers. People do what they think is best. There's no human interaction to give you the immediate success or failure of your deck building.
Okay, that's
And
a
if you think
fair
that, yes,
point,
there's
yeah.
99 unique creatures. Each one of them have 16 to 20 unique skill cards. And then when you get into hybrids, I don't even know if you know about hybrids.
No.
So hybrid...
The recolors is all I know what they usually are.
Yes, but like you could take Golem, if you hybrid him with Tiger, he becomes Blue Ice. So you can have a team with Golem, Blue Ice, and Tiger, where Blue Ice can use both of Tiger's and Golem's cards.
Okay.
So now you can more optimize your deck because you don't need to have a third card adding to different things. Almost every card literally every card you get, one character will always be able to use.
Okay.
So that to me is why the depth once you get that in there, the optimization, the depth curve just increases for me. But if you haven't gotten to that point,
yeah,
or I mean, a 3 is a bit low for me. If you had 4, I wouldn't have given you much slack. But I think I'm going to give you a bit of leeway on that because you probably would have said a 4 if you truly understood what the.
If I would have looked into the true hybrids, yeah. The initial look through of it, though, it just seemed like it was very, like, especially when I'm thinking in a deck building standpoint, like trying to think of it outside the digital space in a real game where you have, 60 card decks, 99 different monsters.
But those 99 monsters have 20 skill cards each, that's 2,000 cards.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit when you break it down that way and you start looking at the hybrids. That's interesting. Then you also
got to talk about the supporters and all the other additional cards that exist within the
game. I think
game.
Maybe a 4 would have been more true, but yeah, from my initial experience when I looked at it, I just was like, it's definitely not shallow, but I don't think it's falling over my head.
Yeah,
so.
No, definitely not.
Going to post-play, replayability, I have it at 3. I probably won't ever play this game, and I don't really have interest to replay it.
Fair.
So that's where, the gameplay was fine, but the interest to replay it is not there.
Yeah, and I put it at a 5. Like, I'm not too much higher.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because of nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I play a couple of games and I go, I can put this back on my shelf, and someone mentions the game to me, I go, oh yeah, I have it, that's sweet, but that's really it. Like.
Okay, so we're not far. So cost satisfaction. Again, I put it in the 3. I really don't think it's...
You really don't know as well.
Like, it's really... I definitely don't think it's not satisfying. Like, if you're into this type of thing and you really like it and you want to pick it up, and especially because you can pick it up for ROMs and they're free, I think it's worth it. I don't know what the game goes for physically or, what...
It changes between... I've seen it as low as 25 and as high as 45. So.
Yeah, so like...
It's not bad.
Even at $25, like, are you getting enough? I think if it's in the middle, like, if it's your thing, you'll enjoy it, but you probably won't play it again.
Yeah, like I have it as a 4, on very similar grounds to you. That I would have it at a 3 if there was no free online options for it. It's the fact that I can do this for free and get the experience from a designer's aspect of playing a new game, understanding how it plays, seeing how they interact with each other, like the characters, that is.
Yeah.
And that's a free experience. If I had to pay $45 for it, I probably wouldn't do it just unless I was like super gung-ho on, I'm playing Monster Rancher, like, let's go.
Okay. So overall, my final score for it, I gave it a 27.
Oof, 39. Nice.
39.
That's quite a different jump.
That's probably the biggest difference in games that we've had, which
Yep.
is fair. And this again comes from perspective of I started it this week on Game Boy Color and had a terrible experience at the start.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Brennan, is it cash or trash for you?
I have it at cash.
Okay.
Just on the caveat that it's free, and that it's worth playing to understand the game mechanics of it.
Okay, as a designer.
To see where stuff came from. Because after playing this game, you can kind of see where games in the future have kind of evolved from it. Because this is the first kind of concept, as I said before, of the character-centric deck building.
Yeah.
And it's really evolved from this, and thank God for that, because this was a slow as bleep system.
Slow as molasses.
Yeah, slow as molasses. But... It's still worth the experience. Like, to me, I'm only going to give things like a 2 or 1 for cost satisfaction. If it costs me lots of money and the game sucks,
or you truly didn't enjoy it.
Out of you.
Yeah. Especially from the design. So, looking at it from my perspective, a gamer's perspective, initially in this, the Game Boy Color one, trash. Don't play it. Don't pick it up. Please don't bother your time. throw that caveat in, because when I came over now, I just played like 15 minutes of the PlayStation 1, just enough. And those 15 minutes is enough, I think, to redeem it to say that if you're going to play this game, pick up the PlayStation 1 version on ROM and play it. Because out of the two, this is definitely worth your time a little bit more. Grindy, yes. But I do think that it would still be worth a playthrough if you're a fan of Monster Rancher. I think it'll be worth it. So I think the PlayStation 1, cash. Game Boy Color, trash.
Game Boy Color, absolute trash.
Don't bother with the time, even if you want to check it out.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about?
That's it for me, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, alright, so consensus. PlayStation, good. Game Boy, not so good.
Thank you for tuning in to the DWMC podcast, a Paragon Professional Services production. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or concerns about what you have heard, send us an email, contact@paragonstudiosmb.com. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your podcasts, and leave a comment with a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. For those of you watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below.